Leadership in Crisis by Coach Sanjay Kanakia. As companies struggle to fathom the impact of current lockdown and people are surviving in isolation, a new challenge has emerged, leading your organization from a distance. Through the session, Leadership in Crisis, business coach Sanjay Kanakia will help you refocus the foundational principles of leadership and give concrete strategies to steer your organization through this crisis and beyond. Sanjay is a certified business coach from ActionCOACH USA. He is also the founder of Keystone Excellence Services and has over 15 years of experience in helping individuals excel in personal leadership, team management, and effective communication. Sanjay is an expert in driving innovative training modules. His passion is to draw out their true potential of those who they lead. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Satyam. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. All right. Just making a few adjustments here. And just to check if my screen is being seen.
Yes, we can see.
All right. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Satyam, you've put me in a big fix of sorts when you have your personal guru, Bruce Wilson, who just speaks before you. And he speaks everything that I completely believe in. And for people who've been listening to him, might find a lot of things that I'm going to say is also repetitive. But the reality is that all of us coaches and who are in this sphere of creating impact, especially from Action Coach, we have a single-minded focus on what we want to deliver to our clients. And the way and methods that we are working are pretty much similar across the world. And these are the tried and tested methodologies that are working for over the last 26 years that Action Coach has been in existence all across the world. So I'm happy to be a part of the same team that is putting up this summit, and I hope to deliver a little bit of value that what I understand that can help as us as leaders and business owners in this time of crisis. So quickly, let me ask a question here to my panelists, and I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. Please feel free to chat on the chat screen. I'm just trying to see how we can access my chat. Yes. So yeah, is it a great time to be in business right now? If you're in India, last couple of years, I think last 2-3 years, in practically every business except a few, we've been seeing a slowdown of sorts, thanks to a lot of the government policies and all the changes that are happening in the taxation system, be it GST, demonetization was a big hit, and then a lot of regulatory policies coming about like RERA and all other policies. It seems that the Indian economy for the last few years has been in a kind of economic winter of sorts, and people were excited now that with the second election done and a stable government at the center, we were hoping that now the proverbial Achhe Din would finally start. But it seems like while we were just about to get ready for the economic spring and summer to begin, this entire COVID-19 virus outbreak across the world has transported back all of us into a economic ice age of sorts. What happened, a few thousand years ago, but everything seems to be completely frozen. And really, we are all kind of grappling to understand how we ever see the sun again out of this ice age. And the reality is that businesses, like some businesses who don't adapt, like dinosaurs, may just go extinct. And that is the reality we are going to face now. We see the curve that people have been talking about, that while we are trying to flatten the curve of people dying across the world, the opposite side of the curve, which is the economic economic survey that is shown, is the impact of this curfew and the social distancing and the lockdown, which right now this morning has been extended to the 3rd of May. is creating a complete standstill in all the businesses, and therefore it is leading to a very, very deep depression and recession kind of a situation in the businesses. And the scary part is that even if the lockdown opens up on 3rd of May, a lot of us will probably not know how to get back to business for some time after that. And that is a reality and a fear it is real. It's real for all of us in this business. And therefore, if you truly ask business owners that is this a great time to be in business, truth be told, a lot of them would say, I would have rather been in a job right now. And unless you are a toilet paper manufacturer or a sanitizer manufacturer right now, everybody seems to be a little worried as to how things are going to really pan out. But let me flip this question a little bit more and ask you another question, which is this a great time to be a leader? And again, when you talk to business owners and you talk to others, they say, well, the challenges and the uncertainty of how long and severe the situation is going to be it's pretty scary. And if given an opportunity, maybe a lot of them would not want to be in this situation. And then, of course, some of them are saying that the fact that you're in lockdown and unable to meet your team on a regular basis, something that you are completely used to, and that is your leadership style, your inability to see them face to face and meet them is also a big challenge. And therefore we are, it's also a scary time for being a leader. But let me, having painted this picture gloomy, I think I'm checking the chat as well. Deepak Baradia mentions, yes, it's the best time to be a leader. And why is Sanjay painting such a gloomy picture? Well, I mean, to appreciate the light, you need to see the darkness first. And let me come to the light now. That's exactly what my point is, that it is the best time to be a leader right now, because your leadership is only going to be at its best in the time of adversity. And nothing better than adverse situations that is going to bring out the best in you and your team. And the reality is that if you look, I mean, history says it, that if you look at all the big leaders that you know of and you've heard of, they have not made their place in the history books when the times were just great, just by sitting at home and relaxing, and therefore my name is coming to the history books. Some of the best leaders that we talk about, be it in Gandhi, for example, Nelson Mandela, or Shivaji, for example, they have actually shown under situations an absolute crisis, and that has brought them to become the best of leaders. And that is exactly my premise, that if you were sitting with them, you take a time travel to the time when they were there, and you sit next to them and you ask them that you are a great leader, what are you going to do? And they would probably tell you that they are extremely overwhelmed with the situation that they were facing, and the only way they thought that they're going to go ahead is something that they're going to bank on is their skills and trainings and their grit and character that is going to probably help them out, and they are going to stick to that. They probably don't know any different. And that's my whole point of this entire presentation, is that in times of crisis and to find a future that is going to be great for all of us, we really need to focus on basics of leadership. And that's, if you can get the basics right, and if you can get your basics of business leadership right, it won't just help you through this time of crisis that we are all facing right now, but it will ensure that all of us are in a position to really be ahead of the curve in a way that, people who are still grappling to understand the situation will be very slow. But all of us who can get our basics right will probably be much, much ahead of the people who were not able to get that. So let me just share what I understand is the three principles that I believe make a great 3S pillars of business leadership, cornerstones of great leadership in business that you can probably apply in your leadership style with your business. So what is the first S that I believe is important for a business leader, right? And that is what I call as a scorecard. Now, a lot of you might have heard what are scorecards and have various versions of that. And I'm going to address this as some people might know it and some people might not, but it's very, very important to understand the finer nuances of the same. So for people who don't really understand scorecard, and as Indians, we really understand scorecards, what we see in cricket. And cricket can be a great analogy to understand what scorecards could mean. That what is a scorecard in cricket is it actually measures everything that is happening in the cricket match, right? And I assume that you would agree with me that it measures everything. Well, reality is it doesn't measure everything. It measures everything that is essential for us to know. So it doesn't measure if the wicket keeper is standing right behind the wicket, or is it he's standing 15 feet behind the wicket, or how many paces that the bowler ran to make his delivery, or did we have a mid wicket or a mid on. It doesn't measure all of that. The scorecard actually measures what is important: the runs, the wickets, the catches, and things like that, the scores that everybody made, right? So let me ask you that question. What is that score? What are the important numbers that define your business? Unfortunately for us, numbers is the only language of business. It is not English, it is not Marathi, it is no other language. It is the numbers that define a business. And most business owners, when asked this question, will always throw out these the numbers that they understand, which is balance sheets and profit and loss statements and sales figures and cash balances, right? But balance sheets and P&L statements are all trailing numbers. They kind of reflect what has already happened in the past, be it in the last quarter, be it in the last year, right? So if I have to ask you that, if you have to know the pulse of your business today, what are those numbers that can tell you what's happening now, and how can you predict your future for your business, right? And it's difficult, and for every business there will be different numbers. But let's do a small exercise right now. Now imagine that you are in a current situation right now, that you are in lockdown. But imagine this lockdown was there some time ago, and you are in one part of the globe where you really don't have much communication with your team. And the only way you can get something from your team is just probably one A4 size paper through a old fax machine or something like that. And what are those 10 numbers that your team could send you that could tell you that, yes, my business is doing all right, it is on the growth path, it is on the path that we are planned out for our future? What are those 10 numbers? Why don't we share that on the chat right now? What are some of the numbers that you could probably measure in your business? Where is the chat? Daily cash flow, Bhavin mentions, yes, absolutely, daily cash flow is important to know. Orders in hand, customer engagements. Well, I'm going to, Komal Khandge says customer engagement. I'm going to come to that, and I want to talk that number of projects, Swati Vaidya mentions. Very good. Total sales and purchase. Absolutely. And all these numbers that you're mentioning are right. But while you are looking at the numbers what you've given me as your answers, I want to take you to the next step. As to, once you're looking at these numbers that are that you're noting down, that would be the numbers that will define your business, it is important to understand that the numbers should be outcomes and not activity. To give you a difference, that if you talked about customer engagement, somebody just mentioned, right? Is that a number? Is there an outcome that you can measure? So it's important that you have numbers that are outcomes, and therefore you can definitely measure them and understand that we are going somewhere with it. The difference between activity and outcome is that outcomes, if are defined and measured, they will ensure that activity happens because outcomes have been defined. But if you define an activity, outcomes are not really guaranteed. And therefore, the importance of understanding and defining outcomes at every level of your organization. So outcomes at the organization levels are some things that we always work on, is your yearly revenue targets that we've talked about, or sales targets, number of customers. That is at the organization level. But every team and every department, I believe, has to have a certain outcome that they should be measured upon. If you look at your various departments in your organization and understand that each department is a client of the other department, each department has to deliver an outcome that goes to the next department. And therefore, you will be able to measure the outcome that is going from department to department, from team to team. And it's important that, again, we understand what is the difference between activity and outcomes. For example, at the team level, if I have to give you an example of activity versus outcome, is that if you look at your accounts department, and if accounts department is responsible for collection, right? Collection is an activity that they are supposed to work on that, yes. But if they are measured, if there's an outcome-based department that we are looking at, then probably something like an accounts receivable being below 60 days. That's an outcome. That is something you can measure. Is it below 60 days? Is it below 75 days? Or so something that you can measure, right? Or something like a total outstanding should be below, say, 1 crore. Again, a measurable outcome. And it's not activity. Its activity would be, okay, be responsible for collections. So ensure that you have outcomes and that are measurable and in your team level and department level. And then obviously it is also applied to your individuals as well. That every individual in your organization should know what he is responsible for, the results that he has to deliver to the team, so that the team, it adds up to the team's outcomes, and therefore each team's outcome adds to the outcomes of your organization. So how do you, and if you know that the individual understands that what are the results he's responsible for, this is the way you can definitely measure his productivity. Otherwise, to give you an example of activity, I have a friend who was really, really finicky about his team coming on time to the office, right? He was very picky that, 9 o'clock in the morning, everybody has to report and they should be here till 6 o'clock at least. Right. And the question I just asked him off the cuff is, so they're there on time, but so what are you measuring their productivity? He says, well, if they're here for those number of hours that I've asked them to be, I'm sure that they will be productive. And I'm sure that all of you would agree that that's probably not the what happens. Just because the body of your person is there for those number of hours, it doesn't really mean that he is going to be delivering the results that you've told him to. So it's important that if he understands the results that he is supposed to give you, he will probably work much harder to ensure that the organization gets it. The other good thing about having a role clarity from individual level, it really fosters commitment, because they really know what they have to do. They are going to be committed to that, and then therefore they know that they're also going to be held accountable. So it takes it to another level in terms of ensuring that your company hits its targets, because everybody is accountable and committed. And once you are accountable, you are definitely going to get your results. So that's the importance of the scorecard. Every company I coach and work with, I tell them to have a dashboard in front of them that ensure that they know the pulse of their company. I'll just take a quick 30-second break right now and just go to the chat to see if there are any questions so far. Yes, and lovely saying that I've heard my mentor Brad Sugar say that what gets measured really gets managed, and what gets managed only gets better. So it's important that everything gets measured, therefore we can manage it, and therefore we can improve it. All right, so we have some. Yes, Komal agrees with me. Great to know that. Yes. All right. All right, I think just comments here, no questions so far. So moving on to the next cornerstone of the 3 S pillars of business leadership is your support system. Now, what do I mean by support system, right? The support of who really supports the business and you. So it is the clients, it's the vendors, it's the financiers, and definitely your team as well, right? And while you're growing, you need to ensure that you really work with them, all of them, being it the client side, the vendors, or your team, and your financiers. It's very, very important that you're engaged in working with them. But as you grow, it becomes a challenge for you to engage with all of these support systems that you have. And instead of losing touch with that, it is important that you have a system that is now designed and created to ensure that you have continuous engagement with all the support systems of your business. So if you look at clients, do you have a customer relationship management system in place? That people understand that, right? And people try to implement that. But also something like a proper systemized method of customer feedback and complaints. It's very, very important to have customer feedback. I'm sure all of you would agree that it is important to know. But a lot of business owners I've spoken to say that, Sanjay, I really don't want to talk to my customers, because if I call them up, they're only going to cry and complain. And that's what all clients believe, that all customers are only about crying and complaining, right? But I tell my clients that, listen, the customer's feedback and a complaint is extremely important for you to know that you're delivering the promise of the product and the service that you have promised to them. And these are very well established in big corporates. Like just to an example that is very, very clear is, if you own a car and you go for the service of your car. I mean, I own a Volkswagen, and the moment the service car comes back to me, within the third day, I get a call from the customer service that, asking me various questions, like from a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience at the lobby of the service center? How was the relationship manager from a scale of 1 to 10? Are you happy with the cleanliness of the car that came back to you on a scale of 1 to 10? At sometimes it feels irritating that, you're asking me these questions. I just want my car service and I got it back. And thank you. But for these companies, it is important that they monitor the average score of all of this. And that is how they ensure that they are delivering the world-class service. And, if they map it, and if they see that their average score is, consistently 8.5, 9, 9.5, and in a couple of months, it comes down to a 6, that's like a red flag. And therefore, it's important that a system like customer feedback is put into your business, so you ensure that you are delivering the best of your service. Same for vendors. Do we have a proper system put in place for vendor evaluation? A lot of companies, especially in small scale segment, look at vendors as the best vendor would be the one who gives it to me at cheapest price. And the question I ask them is that, okay, he's the cheapest right now for sure. But in your time of crisis, when you need so much of raw material coming to you within so much of stipulated time, does he have the ability to deliver that much to you? And have you evaluated the vendor based on various aspects of his ability to deliver in your time of crisis? And that is what I mean by a proper vendor evaluation system. And it's extremely important for your team as well, to understand that, do you have a proper recruitment system? Bruce talked about the fact that you have to have a clear-cut recruitment system for your company, and we recommend that it has to be a process that is not driven by the fact that you tell your accounts guy to go hire somebody, and he hires somebody based on the fact that the new guy joining is from his own village. It needs to be a proper recruitment system based on various parameters that we talk about in ActionCOACH system, and ensure that you have the best of people joining your team. What is also important as a process for your team is your performance management system that I alluded to in the earlier section of the scorecard. That if you have clarity of roles for each of your team members, then you can manage their performance. And when it comes to increments and bonuses, a performance management system makes it very objective in how you can do your increments. Otherwise, a lot of small scale companies talk about doing it on ad hoc basis. This year we'll just give a 10% hike, or this year we didn't do well, no hike for anybody. So it doesn't work out equal to all the people who are doing, who are working in your team. Another very, very important aspect that, again, Bruce talked about earlier, and I really, really agree to, is that as a leader, it is your job to build the culture in your organization. And I can't stress this fact enough, that if you do not build an organization that is based on culture, you will not be able to retain the best of people in your teams. Today, it is a fact that employees are willing to accept lower pay and a lesser of a title than to work in an organization that doesn't have a great culture, or not a great place to be in. So it's important that you understand what is fundamental to your organization and build a culture of great environment and working place. Some of the things that are important when you look at the culture of your organization is, does your culture foster leadership? Does your team get engaged? So are you allowing for, in your leadership development, are you allowing for your team to actually make mistakes? Like, as human beings, we have been, from childhood, we've been scolded for making mistakes. But once you're getting used, when you create a culture of not allowing any mistakes to happen, that's when you're killing innovation in your company. So having a culture of where people can experiment and try out new things, and you not scolding them as a culture, will foster great innovation in your company. Same about engagement, that people in your team would want to feel engaged with the company. Somebody talked about in the earlier session that, right now I have a great culture, but with this lockdown, how do I engage with my team? And while talking to a lot of the business owner friends that I have, a lot of innovative ideas that business owners are using right now to engage with their team. I mean, yes, skills and training has a double whammy, and it helps them grow as well. But simple things like ensuring that all of them are physically, engaged in some kind of activity. Uh, so one of the companies I know about has created a competition that we are going to do 20 push-ups a day and 10 sit-ups a day, and everybody has to post their video of the same. Team feels engaged, and they feel involved in what's happening. So it's a great way to engage even in the times of lockdown. So recognition and motivation also needs to be a part of your culture. Nothing really motivates the people to do much more when they are recognized for the effort that they put in. And again, it need not, it has to be a system driven thing, not so much as a biased approach, because a lot of times people feel that, I don't get recognized. It's only the leader's pet who always gets recognized, and we always get scolded upon. But it needs to be a proper objective system of doing things. And education and learning is extremely important. You have to have the culture of growth in the organization. It's only when your team will grow and move up the ladder that you will be allowed to move to the next rung of leadership. If they remain the same, you will not be able to grow as an organization. And it's a very, very important that they are continuously learning and growing. And one of the business owners was telling me, but Sanjay, it's a risk that if they get too educated and smart, then they probably won't work with me. So my question to them was, that's true maybe, but what's the risk of them not growing and remaining dumb as they are in your organization? So evaluate that risk of not educating your team. So it's important that you have a culture of education and learning. And then of course, transparency in your communication, and build trust with your team. And that's in these times right now of lockdown, it is the most important aspect about that is going to help you keep your team together, because your team is as scared in this situation as you are about your business. And if you have built trust for so many years in your business, they're all going to stay with you, and they're not going to abandon ship. And that's not something that you can do now, but it has to become a part of your culture when you are back to work and for the future of your organization. So coming to all of this, communication remains the key in this era as well. You have to talk to all your support systems, and keeping your team engaged through communication. Strong communication is the key in this time right now. I think I'm going a little slow. I may have to not take chat right now. I'm just going to run to the next S of my pillar, which I believe is personally extremely important, and that is yourself as a business leader. What do I mean by self, right? So you as a business leader have to be continuously also learning and growing, because a lot of times business owners reach a certain stage in their business and they start believing these two words, that is, I know. And they think that they've achieved everything. But let me tell you that the business can only grow to the competence level of the business owner and not beyond that. So it's extremely important that the business owner continuously grows and learns new ideas and techniques. Then therefore the organization will continue to grow. It's in this time as well, when we're in a lockdown, all of us are learning how to use technology, how to use Zoom sessions, and how to make it effective. It is a learning curve for a lot of us in business leaders as well. Some of us are not used to technology at all, but there is no option but to learn this and to use it to engage with your customers as well as your team. So it's important that you are constantly learning. Another important aspect is managing your time. And while time management is something that has been beaten to death, I really like the fact that what Tony Schwartz of the Human Performance Institute talked about, that it's not really time that you can manage, because everybody has the same amount of time, but it's about your energy that you bring to all the activities that you have to do. And that energy is what is going to make every thing that you do much more productive. And that's important aspect in these times, that you will have to be physically having the energy to do the work, as well as the emotional energy. That if you are not the most positive person in your company, your team will sense it and they go to the negativity as well. So it's important that your physical energy, your emotional energy is all that you have to manage very well, so that you are much more productive, and that is contagious, and your team also has that energy, extra energy and enthusiasm to come to work. A compelling vision for yourself is extremely important when you are in business. And when I talk about vision, it's not so much also about the vision for the company. It is a compelling vision for you. Why are you in business today? And ask yourself that question, that, all of us are in a business to actually ensure that we get the lifestyle that we really, really want. And that it's important to have a vision and a clarity of that vision, what you want out of this business. And sometimes business owners who are doing pretty well in their businesses right now kind of lose the vision and the drive for that, and then think everything is okay. But then that is when you see that the organization is not growing anymore. And I asked them the same question that, okay, fine, you have got all the cars and the holiday homes and everything that you need. But what about your team? And what about the community that you're a part of? And if you decide that I want to grow this business so that I can give back to the community, that passion of purpose becomes a driving force for you to grow as an individual and the business to continue to grow. You have examples like Azim Premji and Bill Gates who run their foundations, and they're doing so much for the community. I think they have enough and more money for themselves and their families for a few generations to come. But they're still working hard to build that legacy because they have a vision that drives them to do much more and much bigger stuff. Yeah. And the last aspect that I really want to talk about is your mindset. As a business leader, you have to have that positive mindset for yourself in all of the trying times. If you are bogged down with all the negativity that is around you, then you will be in a situation where you cannot think straight, and your team will not be in a position to know what to do next. I mean, you have no option but to be optimistic when you come out of it. I mean, really speaking, if you ask yourself the true question that who are the people who are going to come out of this lockdown and this entire gloomy situation that we are in, there are two kind of people I believe who are really going to come out of this situation. One are the people who have cash reserves and a lot of money in the bank and don't worry about what are the losses happened in the last month or two. And the other kind of people who are going to really come out of this situation is the people who have the positive mindset. And people who are in the negative mindset right now, maybe the lockdown ends in 3rd of May, but they may take another month or two to just get their mindset right to get back into the motion of doing the business. So it's important that you stay positive through this situation because you have no option. You have no option. Literally in my house right now for the last few days, we've shut down the TV just because there's so much of constant negative news that is bombarded to us about the number of deaths and the rise of the virus cases and all of that. And I said, I've had enough of this. I can't take this negativity anymore. Let's just think about, enjoy with the family, the time that you have, learn new skills that you can in this time, and be as positive as you can. And one of the great tools that we have in Action Coach to keep your mindset right is something that we call as the being above or below the point of power. And I'm just going to take a quick minute or so to explain that. What is the point of power and maybe how it can help you? Imagine there is a point of power and there are option of being either above it or below it. So what is it that it means to be above or below the point of power? So if you are below this point of power, you are either in a mindset of blaming things, blaming external things for your situation, giving excuses that, oh, because of this is happening to me, because of that is happening to me, or you're in complete denial. And denial, what I mean is that, for the first 15, 20 days of this lockdown and the coronavirus, a lot of business owners were in complete denial that, oh yeah, it's just a question of 3 weeks, we'll be back and all of that. And I was trying to tell them, listen, don't be in denial of what is going on. The way business is running, the way you're going to do business is going to change. So you ensure that you're not in denial. You don't blame anybody or anything for your situation, and don't give excuses. In fact, the first letters are in red because effectively it makes a bed. And if you are in this mind frame of being in blame or excuse or denial, you'd rather be in bed because there's nothing better that's going to really happen to you. On the other side of the point of power is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Are you responsible for the actions that you have to take? Are you completely accountable for the results that you get? And do you take complete ownership of this, of whatever situation you are in? And again, the letters in green talk about it being an oar for you. And as a business leader, as a captain of your ship, this is your oar, this is your positive mindset that is going to take you in the direction of the destination that you really want to be in. So being above the point of power, you are completely going to be in a powerful mode. And if you're below, you feel completely powerless. If you are above, you will realize that you're not a victim anymore, but the victor, and you get results and you don't give any reasons. That is the importance of the being above or below point of the power. And I hope this makes sense, because this is some of the very strong point of principle that we believe in Action Coach, that we teach all our clients extremely well in all the communication that they have with their team as well, that are you below or above the point of power. So to summarize, we are, if the three pillars of your business leadership are the scorecard and support system and yourself, putting up systems for your team and your clients and vendors ensures you have a robust system that can work without you. And scorecard gives you the power to know where your business is really growing. And if you can do this and work on this during this time, figuring out all the things that that were gaps in your organization right now, it will eventually lead you to what we believe in Action Coach, is what we call as our definition of a successful business, which is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. You will find yourself that when you have your scorecard, when you have your support systems and systems in place, and you have a strong leader within you, you don't need to be operationally involved anymore in your business, and the business will continue to grow without you. And that is the strength, that basic principles of leadership in business, what I've talked to you about, will ensure that you can tide through this time as well as creating a great future for yourself. Right? I hope this comes to brings me to the end of my presentation. I'm open to some questions. And just last quote from one of our favorite authors: that never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. This is the time to wish that you were better. As a part of our Action Coach Global effort and initiative, reach out to all business owners. I'm earmarking an hour every day to speak to anybody who'd like to talk to me on any aspect of their business. If I can help, I'll be definitely wanting to help at no cost. This is something that all of us are doing across the world right now to reach out to the business community. So please, my coordinates are mentioned below. You can definitely reach out to me. I'll just scroll through if there are any questions. Do we have a moderator here? Satyam?
Yeah, Sanjay, you can take the questions directly, Sanjay.
Okay, because there are too many there. I thought that if somebody was keeping a note, I could have. Let me see. How am I doing on time?
We still have about 5-7 minutes. We can take a couple of questions.
Okay. Deepak Barade says, glad you brought the point of power. It's very, very powerful when applied. Should we always have a backup team member for the role ready of an existing team member? How that strategy could be designed? Well, if you have Dipen Shah has mentioned this question. From what I understand, that if you have clear understanding of roles and responsibilities and who is answerable to whom for what results that they are supposed to give, I am sure that if your team member is not performing for whatever thing, you are accountable for that result, and then you have to get that done. So no point in wasting your resources by keeping backups. But if clear accountabilities have been defined, then I'm sure that somebody along the line will take up the responsibility and ensure that the work gets done. But this comes from being very clear about your org chart and everybody knowing who they are responsible to and what they are responsible for. I hope that answers your question. Surinder Sareen has mentioned, please provide software. I'm sorry, Surinder, I have not understood what software are you looking for. Maybe you can email me and we can discuss this further. Oh, software that will help to monitor scorecard. Well, I mean, there are various softwares that are available. There is something called the balanced scorecard. There are lots of models available on the net. But of course, you also have to deep dive into your own organization and see what numbers really make sense to you and what are numbers you really want to track. So the work that needs to be done starts with you, that you need to identify with those numbers first, and then use a system that may be available online or design one if required, so that you can monitor the scorecard yourself. Our fellow coach is asking me, what style of leadership handles better in crisis? what I understand is right now is their time to be the best possible leader, who is understanding of your team's situation, understanding that they will be struggling to understand the technology. You will have to take time and be patient. Let them upgrade their basic skills so that they can adapt to this new world of communicating. So you will have to be that coaching kind of leader and facilitating the growth of your team right now. If you are hell-bent on results and become very insensitive to it, then it's going to be a challenge for your team to deliver. You need to actually reach out to them and be the best coaching kind of leader that they need right now. Okay. Any other questions? Very true. What is the when we make employee personal goals as company goals, can it be part of the culture of the organization? Sure, why not? I mean, if Tinku has mentioned that making employees personal goals, as a business leader, if you can understand what is the driver for your team, be it on their personal level, because a lot of times you'll realize that salary is not the only thing that drives them. And if you can understand what is important to them and ensure that you help them out, I'm sure that they will come back to you much more energized. For example, Tinku's brother and my friend are interested in trekking. Now, if you have an employee who loves to trek, and if he needs a 1 week off during a time to go to a trek, if you can help him out and ensure that he can get to what he really wants to do, I'm sure that he will come back much more energized and ensure that we can, he'll deliver much more to your organization and work much more harder for you. I think that could answer your question, Tinku. Yeah, Deepak Bharat mentioned that the culture of appreciation than only a culture of catching people. You are absolutely right. That's why I mentioned recognition and motivation, that, recognize times when your teams are doing the good things. We typically catch them only when they do a mistake. And that's what I meant of, allowing mistakes to happen and not being very critical about that. So it is important culture of appreciation is inculcated. I think that's my cue to that the session has come to an end. Satyam, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you so much for the insightful session. We've been receiving quite a good response on WhatsApp messages, and people have been asking me to get in touch with you. So
thank you.
Surely we'll connect you. And as a certificate of appreciation, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for putting this wonderful session together. Everyone really liked it.
Thank you, Satyam. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.